Hello, and welcome to this special Saturday edition of the WrestleTalk News. I'm Ollie Davis, fresh back from holiday. Look at my tan. I went to Italy, was looking for Giovanni Vinci's push, didn't find it. And it wasn't on this episode of SmackDown either. But before we get to the SmackDown review portion, which was very Bloodline-centric episode, let's have some other Bloodline news, some Bloodline family news. So people who are in the Bloodline family, that Anoa'i family tree, but not with WWE, which is an increasingly smaller number. So Zilla Fatu is the son of Amaga. He's the cousin of Jacob Fatu, and on the other side of that little branch of the Anoa'i dynasty, he's also the cousin of Rikishi's sons, the Usos and Solo Sikoa. So he started wrestling in 2023 for Booker T's Reality of Wrestling promotion, and he left there just after, I think 3-4 months from his debut, because Booker T said on his Hall of Fame podcast last year of irreconcilable differences. I've still got holiday brain. It was an awful flight back. Not so irreconcilable that they couldn't then make up, and he returned in March and won the ROW title last month, actually. But there was a bit of a history of maybe Zilla Fatu isn't the easiest person to work with backstage. And now, last night, GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, a very big indie promotion in the States, has tweeted ahead of their show tonight. Zilla Fatu will not be appearing on tonight's GCW event in Philadelphia or any GCW shows for the foreseeable future. We tried our best to avoid this situation, but we have reached an impasse. We wish him the best. And then they announced his replacement for the show as Slade versus Matt Tremont. So usually when a Bloodline wrestler gets pulled from an indie show appearance, everyone starts going, WWE confirmed? But actually, maybe not in this case, because of that previous history with potentially being a bit difficult to work with backstage. He is also very inexperienced still. I think even if the attitude issues weren't there, alleged, sort of speculated attitude issues, it might be better to not bring him in when he's so green. Also, apparently on the show before, because he did wrestle for GCW just last weekend, he shouted in the middle of the match something to Brett Lauderdale, who is the booker of GCW, and yeah, maybe not a work-shoot angle there, maybe it's more of a shooty-shoot. Much love, HH Kiss. But he has teased WWE stuff in the past. When Jacob Fatu, who he had tag-teamed with in GCW back in January, debuted in SmackDown in June, Zilla posted, "See you soon," and Fightful Select had already reported that WWE has their eyes on him, because of course they would. And he was also in attendance for August SummerSlam. So he's definitely on the WWE radar. Why wouldn't he be? He's part of the Anoa'i family. But I would be skeptical if he actually ends up in WWE off the back of this. This seems like a more separate incident. And also, WWE have already reportedly signed Hikuleo from New Japan, part of the Tamatonga Tongaloa brotherhood there, and he's not debuted yet. So he might debut, though, for War Games, which presumably is coming up soon. More on that very shortly in the SmackDown review bit. Of course, very Bloodline-centric episode. But before we do, let's just talk about some NXT numbers. Stats, analytics. That's what I've come back from holiday for. So the Wrestling Observer newsletter have reported that the October 8th episode of NXT, which was the second episode on the CW, of course, NXT has moved from the USA Network to the CW on the 1st of October. They've got a big show there with CM Punk as a special guest referee. And on the second episode, which is this episode, they've got Randy Orton wrestling a match against Javon Evans. Usually, in the past, having such big main roster draws on NXT has increased demand for tickets. But not so for this second episode, because, according to the Wrestling Observer, they have moved the taping from the 18,000 seat Enterprise Center in St. Louis, that's like B-level pay-per-view WWE show, or premium live event, sorry, I forget myself. And they've only sold 2,000 tickets, just under, I think. Now, of course, it wasn't set up for the full 18,000 capacity. It was only set up for 4,200 reportedly. But they have moved to the Factory, which is a 3,000-seater arena, which is far more likely to fill up that 1,000 extra tickets they need to shift. And it will create a better atmosphere for the show. It's like having Randy Orton perform in that sort of more intimate environment could be really exciting. But yes. But now... Look, there's no editor today, so these are the graphics. SmackDown review. So this was very Bloodline-centric. A lot of other things happen on the show. I'll sort of bullet point them later. But the main through line was this excellent follow-up. Almost a mini-movie. The closest we'll probably get to a cinematic match in the post-pandemic world. The cinematic promo segment. So we got a recap of the excellent Cody-Roman team-up angle from last week. You know, the give me the contract too, I'm going to sign it. So this was sort of a parlay of sorts between Roman and Cody on the Atlanta football ground. And Roman is shown this as done like full cinematic style. And Roman gets there in a sort of convoy of 7 black SUVs. A bit extravagant, but I presume even when the Bloodline has split down the middle, there's about 40 Bloodline members you've got to transport with you. And then Cody arrived in a sports car, and they walk right into the middle of the Atlanta football stadium. And everything goes quiet, sort of music effects. And they just have this really good dialogue in a way that you can't do in an in-ring promo on TV, where you have to sort of perform more to the crowd. You need to make sure that so-and-so in row Z can pick up on the facial expressions and the nuances of the performance. However, what Roman found in the pandemic, and it was such a huge part of his heel performance, was that he can play to the camera, which is a far more intimate, realistic way of being a wrestling character. So here they are, Cody, who's an experienced actor himself. He's appeared on TV shows like Arrow, and Roman Reigns, who is doing acting work on the big screen, but also I feel like he's one of the best actors in wrestling. They're just having an in-ring wrestling segment promo in a movie. And the basic thing is, Roman says, this is my city, Atlanta. I played football here at university, and I left my blood, sweat and tears on this pitch. And then Cody, quite fairly rebutted, well, my family have been bleeding around here for decades. Over there is this arena and this famous arena in wrestling. So while it might be your pitch, this is my home. Excellent back and forth. And then Roman started to talk about his beef with the Bloodline, because this whole thing was Roman and Cody creating a truce. All of that tension they had leading into WrestleMania. And, Roman came and helped Cody in that SummerSlam match. There's still a lot of bad feelings there. That's years of top-tier, top world championship tension between the two. So Roman explained how they took Jimmy from him, Jimmy Uso. They took his wise man, Paul Heyman, his Afala, the ceremonial necklace. He's not tribal chief anymore. He's not WWE champion. He's a man without a country. He doesn't have anything to lose. Whereas he looks at Cody, he's like, you've got everything to lose. You've got that WWE title. And then Cody points out, well, I kind of told you this. I told you this last year because you were being such a dickhead to everyone. And you will have a point where your own Bloodline family turn on you because you've bred this culture of dissent and betrayal. And then, one of the best moments of it, Cody pointed out, as Roman had already done, really, he said, you're not WWE champion anymore. And Roman just has this moment of, let's move on. Why are we really here? What do you want from me? I thought it was a really good insight into how Roman's playing it all cool. He's got nothing left to lose. But there is a huge chip on his shoulder still. He really wants to be tribal chief again, and he really wants Cody's WWE title back. He wants people to acknowledge him. So Cody said, well, the reason I called this post-credits Marvel Universe sequence is that he wants Roman's word that he'll have his back. And Roman gives it to him. He says, yep, you've got my word, I'll have your back, you have mine. But once this is all done, I'm coming for that WWE title. Which is fair. Really good long-term booking as well. We've got this exciting thing in the meantime, and then in the future, huge WrestleMania rematch. And then they both have quite a large stadium. You know, this is the middle of a football pitch. They both go to leave in exactly the same direction, like cutting each other up. And Cody does this sort of awesome superhero pose where he's like, and he's looking back at Roman like he's a WWE wrestler in 2019 watching a TV. And Roman says, "You're in my way." And Cody steps out of his way. Okay, we're trucing now. And Roman says, "You're in my way in life." Oh, such a cool, still seeding tension line. Very uneasy truce. And the uneasiness continues backstage, because once you've had that awesome movie-like in-ring promo segment, or non-in-ring promo, it cuts back to Kevin Owens. And that's what's so good about Paul Levesque's creative approach to WWE at the moment, is these aren't just self-contained storylines. The big ones not just run through the whole episode, giving it a nice narrative backbone. It feels like a rewarding watch to go from start to the finish of an episode. There's setup and there's payoff within the 2 hours. But it's also interwoven with consequences and ramifications on how other people around those storylines are feeling. So it cuts back to Kevin Owens. He's, watching the segment on a TV over here. And Byron Saxton, asks him 50 times, "What's your feelings on this?" He obviously looks upset. So Owens comes down to the ring and says, "Well, I'm going to tell everyone how I feel." And he talks about the situation because he's best friends with Cody. He fought him at Bash in Berlin, and they had, they're still friends after that. But they became friends in opposition to the Bloodline. He said, "You can't trust Roman. I hate Roman Reigns." And now Cody's doing this. How does that make Kevin Owens feel? For once in Kevin Owens' many betrayals of friends, you can make an argument that Cody betrayed Owens first here. So the sort of, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, Jacob Fatu, they interrupt Owens' promo before he can properly get going in that. There's no Solo Sikoa on this episode. It's remarkable how this still felt like such a substantial episode with the things that happened, and you didn't have Roman Reigns and you didn't have Solo Sikoa. Shows what a good job they've done with Cody, and I would argue Jacob Fatu and Kevin Owens too. So they have a hockey fight, DIY rundown because tag title stuff there as well. Nick Aldis makes, "Well, players, 6-man tag for the main event." Didn't happen in that way. DIY got taken out backstage before it happened. But the Street Profits, they don't like the Bloodline either. They come down, they take their place. We get a chaotic 6-man tag. Those 6-man tags where it's sort of no DQ and people can interfere because it's not a strict tag team match. It's kind of like a triple threat match. But, just referee called for the bell when one of the members of the match broke up a legal pin. Quite frustrating. Quite a frustrating end to the match. Tangaloa pulled Kevin Owens out after he had a pin on Tama Tonga. I think it was off a stunner, so arguably would have won there. And the referee was like, "Whoa!" Now, I know I've seen that so many times in this match, and loads of times in other matches, but that's too far. DQ loss, whatever. But the Bloodline start to beat them down afterwards. And the chaos continues. They're beating up Kevin Owens. They're beating up the Street Profits. DIY run down. They beat them up as well. But Cody comes down with a steel chair to make the save. Where was that guy earlier? I think Kevin Owens might have another bone to pick with Cody. over how long it took him to get out there. But he comes in, he chases off the Bloodline, and he's dropped the chair at this point. He's looking at the Bloodline who are backing up the ramp. And Kevin Owens is behind Cody for a lingering moment. And he picks up the chair. And it looks very much like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns' Shield, I'm going to use the chair on you times. Cody turns round. He sees Owens with the chair. Owens doesn't look happy, but he doesn't look like he's going to use the chair either. Owens throws down the chair, and they embrace in that very soap opera style way, the EastEnders hug, where Cody's like, yeah, oh yeah, I love you, man. And on the other side of the hug, Kevin Owens is like this. Harry Hill used to call it the, you've just realised you've left the oven on face. So you do a hug, everything's cool. Yeah, man, we're cool. So potentially, Kevin Owens turning heel on Cody Rhodes there. And there's also, there were parts here where it felt like Cody or Roman might turn heel on each other off the back of that movie segment. But the Kevin Owens thing was explicitly teased. If I had to predict, I would say doesn't happen, just because I imagine we've got War Games coming up, and that will probably be Roman, Cody, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens, I think, as a 4 against Fatu, Solo, and the Tamatonga and Tongaloa. And maybe Hikuleo joins too, so you need another person on the babyface side. But yeah, I don't think Owens turns yet. Maybe this is a seed for something that happens in November. Or isn't... I know, it's like right at the end of November, Survivor Series this year. Just to run down what else happened on the SmackDown episode, LA Knight opened the show defending his US title against Andrade. Andrade got this match because he's beaten Carmelo Hayes 3 times out of 5. Really good match, but LA Knight won, retained, and Andrade just, shook hands afterwards, but he looked annoyed, gets backstage. Hayes calls him washed. They have a really good pull-apart brawl, and it's announced that they'll have a 6th match in the series later. So I expect Hayes to win that one, and maybe we get a pay-per-view payoff or a big SmackDown payoff of this, because it's been a really good feud and series of matches. I hope Andrade gets elevated or a bit more teeth to his character following it, though. Giovanni Vinci, son of a bitch, happened again. He comes down. Apollo Crews goes a little bit longer this time, but Apollo Crews beats him with a sort of powerbomb pin thing. Vinci snapped afterwards. He beat up Apollo Crews, but it wasn't like a big enough beatdown to be interesting. This felt very WWE Heat. That was my vibes. And the other sort of main through line was Bayley and Naomi taking on Tiffany and Nia Jax in a tornado tag. If Bayley or Naomi lost, they would have to leave SmackDown. But if they won, the pinning winner would get a shot at Nia Jax's title. And both Bayley and Naomi pinned Jax at the same time. Tiffany also accidentally hit a swanton onto Nia, continuing those seeds of dissent as well. So that was announced by Aldis as a Bayley versus Naomi #1 contenders match next week. Cool. I thought it was going to be a triple threat maybe, but yeah. Maybe Naomi gets a heel turn. It feels like there's so many bubbling heel turns in WWE. I think the last one we got was Chad Gable, wasn't it? Get people turning on each other, like Finn turned on Priest. But they felt like both heels anyway. I don't know. He just turned more heel. And of course, Chelsea Green had segment of the night doing a training montage for the dumpster match against Meacham. Right, well, that's the SmackDown review. We've got our 3-count Bad Blood predictions going live tomorrow. Look, 3-count t-shirt right there. That's with Tempest and Luke. Not me, because I was away this week. Didn't have time to film it. But I'll be back with the WrestleTalk news next week, along with some coverage of the Vince McMahon stuff. And also, now, if you can please go over to our Patreon, patreon.com/WrestleTalk. We've got loads of exclusive content up there, like 3 4-hour-long episodes of me and Luke diving into big wrestling storylines. We did the breakup of the Shield. That's a big 7-episode arc that's all up there in its entirety. Right now, we're doing TNA's Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe. There's also exclusive 3-count episodes, exclusive Tables, Lists and Chairs episodes, exclusive Survival Series episodes. They're all up there now. Really help support us keep making what we're making here at WrestleTalk. That's patreon.com/WrestleTalk. But until then, jam that jam.